What's going on, bottom line viewers and NFL betters? It's Mitch here with your NFL Week 2 over-under best bets. Last week, we had a successful over-under week, going 3-1 on the week. And because you guys tuned in, you showed support, you Gronk spiked the like button. This week, I'm giving you not 4, not 5, but 6 picks for my over-unders. So keep supporting, keep Gronk spiking the like button, and I'll give you more picks. This week, we are looking to have the same success. Beginning on Sunday, let's take a look at Miami versus Baltimore. The line is currently 44.5. That is the total for this game. I'm going under on this game. Miami, there's been talk that speed absolutely will burn the Baltimore secondary. Well, here's a difference. I understand they have Tyreek Hill. I understand they've got Jalen Waddle. I watched this team every play last week versus my New England Patriots defense, who is built similarly to the Baltimore Ravens, and Tua just doesn't have it. I can't bet on Tua going over against a good defense, a well-schooled defense, a defense that can stuff the run of the Dolphins, limit your ability to run the ball, which puts the ball in Tua's hands on 3rd and long, which is just not a situation you want to be in versus a diverse, creative, defensive team like Baltimore with a strong secondary. I understand Kyle Fuller's out. Hopefully Marcus Peters is in there. I think that Marcus Williams, Marlon Humphrey, this is a stout back end who can maybe not man up on Tyreek, maybe not man up on Jalen Waddle, but play solid zone coverages, pressure Tua in situations to make him and force him make mistakes. And I just don't think the Dolphins are going to sustain drives in this one. A lot like the Patriots game. I thought the Patriots did a fantastic job of basically defending everything the Dolphins had to offer from the new McDaniel 49er scheme. So the Ravens can take that, film what Belichick had to offer, and add their own flair to that game plan from that side of things. So I'm not concerned about Tyreek Hill because he doesn't have Patrick Mahomes running around creating these crazy plays against the Ravens. It's a Tua who can't complete a 15-yard dig route over the middle. He just can't. On the flip side, Lamar Jackson, love him. He didn't look fantastic. The Ravens offense didn't look fantastic versus the New York Jets defense, who I've been praising this week. I feel like the Jets defense is a little underrated, so there's that. But when we look at this year's matchup, we have to look at last year's matchup. The Dolphins had all the answers for Baltimore, from Lamar Jackson running the ball, to the running backs themselves, to how to pressure Lamar and make him uncomfortable, to how to cover the receivers. Xavier Howard can pretty much take away Rashad Bateman, his number one go-to target. It's a pretty ideal matchup for Howard, who's a physical, bigger corner, matching up with a bigger, good route runner, not phenomenal, not great speed, doesn't have the capability of burning Howard down the field. So Howard can play underneath, he can play physical, he can play press, he can get in his face, he can take him away. Javon Holland is phenomenal. Those safeties, I thought Jones played great last week versus New England. They can support and cover Mark Andrews. I believe that Josh Boyer, who's one of the more underrated defensive coordinators in the league, will have answers for how to cover Mark Andrews in certain situations. They're great at finding different blitzes, and they were super creative on blitzing New England and forcing big plays like strip sack fumbles. And also last year, they just zero blitzed every single play and got after Lamar. And considering that Lamar doesn't have his first string left tackle, most likely in Ronnie Stanley, his second string left tackle, and perhaps his third string left tackle will be the guy in for this game, it's concerning. Their run game from the running back perspective was not elite versus the Jets. It was actually very, very subpar. I don't see how the Ravens, without being able to run the ball effectively and efficiently, will be able to consistently move the ball versus a very good pass defensive team in Miami with a very good defensive coordinator and a lot of talent up front. So I like this game to go under because I don't trust Tua on one side of the ball, and I trust the Dolphins defense to have all the answers for the Greg Roman, Lamar Jackson attack. My second best bet for week number 2 is the New York Jets, the Cleveland Browns, under 40. This is a very low number, but it's a low number for a reason. I bet the under on the Jets last week, and I was right, and I'm going to do it again. The New York Jets offense, Joe Flacco is stagnant. He's a statue. He's not going anywhere. And that being said, Myles Garrett can pin his ears back. Jadeveon Clowney, this pass rush, can pin their ears back, get after Joe Flacco, and a less than ideal tackle position for the New York Jets currently. That's a problem. The Browns also have a pretty darn good secondary. They are very fast at the second level. I do feel they'll cover very well, just as they did versus Carolina, and make life difficult on the Jets running the football in this game because of their speed sideline to sideline and because of their ability to match up with receivers like Elijah Moore. I think the Jets will have their moments, but not enough, because everything with the Jets with Joe Flacco has to be long drives, sustainable drives. There's not a lot of explosive plays with this guy at this current point in his career, and that just leads to more time of possession, bleeding the clock, and a lower score. On the flip side, we've got Jacoby Brissett versus a highly underrated defense in the New York Jets. I really like what they can do up front from a run defense perspective. They absolutely locked down the Baltimore Ravens, who are a good run team, last week. Quinnen Williams, John Franklin Myers, CJ Mosley, Quincy Williams, Quan Alexander. These guys can defend the run. They're beasts up front. Robert Saleh's scheme is pretty much made to defend the run against a team like the Browns. And I don't see the Browns having massive success to the degree that they did versus Carolina, who's a lot more finesse. The Jets are a lot tougher, a lot more physical. CJ Mosley is an absolute hawk against the run. I think they put Jacoby in uncomfortable spots to throw the ball in a way that Carolina didn't. And I think the Jets pass rush can take advantage of that. I also believe that the Jets have an underrated corner duo in DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner, who both played great games last week. I think this game is under all day. It might just be just under because this is a low total, like 20-17, but that still hits the under. I wouldn't be shocked if both of these teams don't even score into the 20s. They score in the teens, and you look pretty on the under. My third over-under best bet is the Washington Commanders and the Detroit Lions over 48.5. I like this game a lot. It makes all the sense in the world schematically, matchup-wise, that this game is high scoring, that this game goes over. Now, I understand I'm trusting Jared Goff and Carson Wentz, but then again, I'm trusting Carson Wentz and Jared Goff playing each other in the first overall pick, second overall pick, revenge spot, rivalry spot. I don't know. Maybe that is a thing. Narratives. But from a football perspective, Detroit's offense is really good. And I'm going to continue to bet the over on them as long as Vegas continues to give me a low line. I think that this offensive line for the Lions is absolutely awesome. I think they're one of the best, if not the best, offensive line in football. Running-wise, DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams, dynamic out of the backfield, can run all over any team. I think they can really shut down the Washington Commanders pass rush of Daron Payne, Jonathan Allen, and Montez Sweat. You know, this defensive line that really caused Trevor Lawrence some issues, but it's really their only area of their defense that can help them stop teams. If Washington doesn't get a pass rush, they're not a very good defense. You can pick them apart, especially in the middle of the field, because they don't have great safeties. They don't have great linebackers. Amon-Ra St. Brown can work underneath. TJ Hawkinson can work. DeAndre Swift can work. Those are the strengths of Detroit. DJ Chark can also get involved on the outside. Jared Goff is efficient. This offense put up a ton of points on Philadelphia, a more talented defense than Washington. I think the Lions can do it again at home. On the flip side, Carson Wentz looked really good last week. Threw 4 touchdowns, threw over 300 yards versus Jacksonville's defense. Terry McLaurin, legit. Curtis Samuel looked unreal last week. And Jahan Dotson looks like the real deal coming out of the draft. That's 3 receivers that are going to be difficult to cover for Detroit. I also believe that Washington's offensive line continues to be underrated. I think they can protect Wentz. And I love Wentz in this game because he showed a capacity last week to be really aggressive. And I think that leads to overs. It's rather going to be big plays or it could be turnovers. And that leads to points. I think that they could hit some big plays versus the Detroit Lions defense that might be the worst in football. They were awful last week. They gave up a ton of plays to A.J. Brown. I think Terry McLaurin could see a huge day. And Washington's run game isn't half bad either. So 2 sides of the ball that I think are underrated. Washington's offense, Detroit's offense, well-schemed, good talent. Offensive lines have the advantage. I'm taking the over in this game. My 4th over-under best bet is the New Orleans Saints and Tampa Bay Buccaneers under 44. I was live at the Bucs Dallas Cowboys game, Sunday Night Football in Dallas. That was an absolute slugfest, a slow, methodical victory by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And their defense absolutely dominated, utterly dominated. And Tom Brady, this is the thing. I've watched the guy for 20 years as a Patriots fan. When he is up in a game and he feels his defense is playing well, he knows not to make the mistake. He knows to play conservative, and he's not going to go out there and sling it just to get his stats up. He's going to play to win. And that's the way Tom Brady's going to play in this game. I think Brady understands that his defense has the potential to be special this year, and I think the Bucs will do a good job of slowing down the Saints. I think their pass rush could give Jameis some issues. I do like their back end this year in a way that I didn't last year. I feel much better about Antoine Winfield Jr. in the nickel position this year. Jamel Dean and Carlton Davis playing really good football. Carlton Davis has shown, the ability to lock down Michael Thomas in 2 or 3 of the last 3 matchups. I mean, it's been right there for him. And Logan Ryan kind of brings his stability and maturity to the back end, intelligence-wise. Devin White's flying around. Levante David looks in prime form. Vita Vea is great. I don't think the Saints can run the ball in this game. And I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on Jameis to be consistent throwing the ball. And I just don't think he's going to be consistent all the way. I think he's going to miss throws. He's going to make some throws. But it's going to be too inconsistent for them to put up a ton of points. On the flip side, I do feel like the Saints have had the number of Brady in this offense. The Byron Leftwich, Bruce Arians scheme has definitely been at a disadvantage. And I think because of that, now that Todd Bowles is the head coach, he's going to tell Byron Leftwich and Tom Brady, guys, we can win this defensive game. It's in New Orleans. We want to run the ball. We want to play close to the vest. We want to play defensive first. We want to manage, the game. We don't want to throw the ball to the other team. We don't want to get strip sacked. The way we lose this game is through turnovers. That's what Todd Bowles' message is going to be to this offense. Brady knows that. He knows how to play that game. And I think the Bucs are going to run the ball, and I think the Bucs are going to take some shots through play action. They're going to play through the screen game, but it's going to be very conservative from that standpoint. I don't think they're going to be super aggressive attacking a Saints defense who's had the upper hand and the advantage on them through matchups over the past couple of years. Now, I understand the Saints defense didn't look great versus Atlanta, but that was a very different Atlanta offense. One with a running quarterback, one with a dynamic running back receiver out of the backfield, one with a dynamic tight end freak show, one with a rookie receiver who's also a giant. Atlanta's offense is not better than the Bucs, but it's a lot different and it poses different matchups. So the Saints, I think their defense comes back. I think they play with an edge too because of how they played last week, and it's in New Orleans. So the sound, the volume, the crowd will be in it, especially against Tom Brady. I view this as a defensive game that could go either way in a rivalry NFC South matchup, and I've got the under 44.5. I think this is way too high. My next over-under best bet is the Buffalo Bills and Tennessee Titans on Monday Night Football. I'm going to take the under 48. This moved from 49 to 48 from what I saw, and I agree with the movement, and I still think there's value here. When I look at it, I think Buffalo has one of the best defenses in football. I just spoke glowingly about the Bucs, and I think the Bucs have probably the best. But the Bills are right there for first or second as well. They're in that top 3 conversation. Buffalo can cover. They can confuse you. They can rush with 4. They can defend the run. They can do a lot. And I think Tennessee benefited from playing a very weak Giants secondary last week. So Ryan Tannehill looked better than I think he will in this game. I think Tannehill will really struggle because I think his weapons will struggle to get open. I think he'll struggle to make plays. I think this is a clear disadvantage and a clear mismatch from a coaching perspective, offensive coordinator versus defensive coordinator. I think the Bills are a much smarter defensive team than the Titans are offensive team. Derrick Henry looks slow. He didn't look great last week. I think the offensive line of the Titans is susceptible to pressure on the edge, where Von Miller can make plays in this one. I just don't see the Titans scoring over like 17 points. I'd be shocked if that happened, and it would have to be Derrick Henry going into old school, retro mode for that to take place. The game's also in Buffalo on a Monday night, where the crowd is going to be insanely loud and insanely rowdy. I've been there before. I know what it's like. I feel like Buffalo is going to dominate on that side of the ball. So I love the Titans team total under as well. But on the flip side, I think Tennessee's defense is being a bit disrespected. They allowed some big plays to the Giants, big play to Sterling Shepard, a big play to Saquon. There wasn't much for the Giants all day long, and the Bills don't have the greatest offensive line in the world. That is a weakness for them. I could see Jeffrey Simmons dominating this game. I could see their pass rush getting after Allen and making life difficult. Mike Vrabel's a good defensive coach. They've got a solid secondary. They've got very good safeties. I think the Titans defense is still very good, even without Harold Landry. And I think they can cause Josh Allen some fits in the game. Maybe a couple turnovers could be all the difference on the over-under here. But because I'm so confident in the Bills defense, even if the Bills do find a way to score on the Titans and it's a blowout, I just don't think that both sides are going to connect in a shootout type of game. I think it's rather a surprising, low-scoring slugfest or a Bills blowout where the Titans don't score enough points for this to go over. So I've got the under 48. My bonus pick for the over-under best bets this week is the other Monday Night Football matchup. That's the Philadelphia Eagles and Minnesota Vikings over a pretty high number of 50.5. But I feel very good about this one. Both teams are high scoring. They want to put on a show on Monday night. I think there's going to be a fast pace to this game. I think the Philadelphia Eagles will be able to run the ball at will versus the Minnesota Vikings up front, a team that was, really susceptible last week versus a Green Bay Packers run game that isn't nearly as dynamic or special as the Eagles with all they can do from a quarterback and running back perspective. And then A.J. Brown is going to be a problem for the Minnesota Vikings secondary. Patrick Peterson looked like burnt toast versus the rookie Christian Watson last week. I thought the Packers left a lot of plays on the field. I thought Aaron Rodgers missed open guys. I think the Vikings defense is a bit overrated after their performance last week. On top of that, we've got an offensive line for the Eagles that can protect Danielle Hunter and Zadarius Smith, which is really the strength of the Vikings defense. On the flip side, we've got a Eagles defense that has talent but is completely vanilla on the scheme standpoint. And Justin Jefferson's going to be moved around everywhere. They're going to figure out ways to get him the ball. Adam Thielen, KJ Osborne, Dalvin Cook. The Vikings got a ton of weapons. I think their offensive line looks real good. They look great versus a pretty good Packers front last week at home. I think it travels to the road where they're able to do enough to allow Kirk Cousins some time. I think when Cousins sees the picture as vanilla as it is in Philadelphia, this defense that shows their defense, shows their hand, they are not creative. They are not diverse. It's very vanilla. And I think Cousins is very good in that regard. I think he can just see things. He accurately throws the football. He's pinpoint. He doesn't miss. And when he reads it, he connects. And I think Jefferson's a problem for the Eagles secondary. I think Dalvin Cook, if you try to play too deep and you try to take away Jefferson over the top, I think Dalvin Cook and this running game can get going as well. So I like the over here. The only way I think this goes under is if both teams just decide to be run-centric and just run and bleed the clock. But as long as this game has enough explosive passing plays through A.J. Brown, Justin Jefferson, the dynamic receivers that they offer, I think this game goes over all day, and it's highly entertaining towards the end. Those are my favorite over-under picks for week number 2. Let me know yours in the comment section below. Go check out my spread picks if you haven't already, and my parlays are coming soon. It's Mitch. Peace.